Hey class, welcome back. Today's focus will be dividing decimals. It's going to be week 4, lesson 1. So just a little division vocab. This problem right here, written like this, is really 10.2 divided by 3.4 equals 3. So the number that we start with, that's called the dividend. The number we're dividing by, that's called the divisor. And then the answer is called the quotient. So just a little vocab for you. When we divide decimals, we want the divisor, so the number we're dividing by, to be a whole number. We can make the divisor a whole number by moving the decimal. If we move the decimal in the divisor, you must also move the decimal in the dividend by the same amount. So let's practice that. So if I have the 10.2 divided by 3.4, in order to do this division, I want the outside number to be a whole number, which means I have to move the decimal point over one time there to make the outside number 34. And if I move the decimal point on the outside number 1 over, I have to do the same thing to the inside number. So instead of 10.2, that would be 102. And then we would be able to divide. So for the next one, to make 0.25 a whole number, you would have to move the decimal point over 2 times to make the outside number 25, which means you have to do the same thing to the inside number. Now the inside number is just 15. Since that's already a whole number, the decimal's at the end of 15. So if I moved it over 2, which means that I would have to add some zeros. So instead of 15, now it would become 1500. And then I would be able to divide that. Okay, so 0.02 or 2 100ths, move the decimal point over to make it a whole number of 2. I had to move it over 2 places. So then do the same thing here, and that would be 10.4. So something to note is that when you move the decimal point, you do not need to, in the whole number answer, after you change it, you don't have to add those zeros anymore. You no longer need those zeros that are out front. And the last one, to make 1.2 into a whole number, we move it just one place to the right, so that becomes 12. So moving this one to the right, I don't need that 0 anymore, so just be 1.56. All right, now that you know how to move the decimal point over so that the number on the outside is a whole number, let's try some dividing. Okay, so this says 7.5 divided by 0.3. So first, the first number is the one that goes on the inside of the division, and then 0.3 goes on the outside. In order to make this easier, I want to make the outside number into a whole number. So it is a 0.3, so I'm going to move the decimal over one spot to make that a whole number 3, which means I'm going to move the decimal place over one spot here, and that becomes 75. Then the traditional method of dividing, you take, well, can 3 fit into 7? And you'd say yes, 3 fits into 7 2 times. The 2 goes above the 7. And 2 times 3 is 6, so we subtract. 7 minus 6 is 1. Then you bring down the 5. And 3 fits into 15 5 times. That's 3 times 15 is, or 3 times 5 is 15. So in this case, we are done now. We have a remainder of 0 and no numbers left up here. So 7.5 divided by 3.3 is 25. Okay, so let's try this one. It's 1.42 divided by 0.5. So I want to rewrite this so that we have a whole number out front. So I'm going to move the decimal over once again to make that a 5, which means I'm going to move it over once to make that a 14.2. Then starting, does 5 fit into 1 here? No, so 5 does not fit into 1, so 0 times. Then how about how many times does 5 fit into 14? 5, 10, 15, so 5 fits into 14 2 times. 5 times 2 is 10, so we're going to subtract. 14 minus 10 is 4, and then you bring the 2 down. Then 5 fits into 42. Well, since 5 times 8 is 40, and 5 times 9 is 45, 5 fits into 42 8 times. So I put the 8 above the 2, and 5 times 8 was 40, so I'm going to subtract. 42 minus 40 is 2. Now I do need to add a 0 up top and bring that down since 5 doesn't fit into 2. And then 5 goes into 20. Since 5 times 4 is 20, it goes in there 4 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract, we get 0. Then, to write our final answer, we take the decimal point in our original problem and we move it straight up. So the decimal goes right there. So our final answer will be 2.84. Okay, so we want to take 1.23 divided by 0.4. I want this to be a whole number at the end, so I'm going to move the decimal point over once and do the same thing here. So really it's going to be 12.3 divided by 4. So I'm going to write that over here, just so I have a little bit more room. So 12.3 divided by 4. Okay. So 4 does not fit into 1, so 0. Now 4 fits into 12 3 times. So we put that above the 2 and the 12. And then 4 times 3 is 12, so we subtract. You get 0 here. You got to bring down this 3. Does 4 fit into 3? It does not, so we have to add a 0 up here. And then we're going to have to add another 0 to bring it down. Now 4 fits into 30. Let's see, 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 7 is 28. And 4 times 8 is 32. So 4 fits into 37 times. So 7 goes on top. 4 times 7 is 28. We subtract. 30 minus 28 is 2. We can bring down another 0. 4 fits into 20 5 times, and that's 20. And no more remainder. And then we take our decimal point and we move it straight up in our final answer. So our answer is 3.075. Okay, I'm going to do one more with you. So I want what we're dividing by to be a whole number. So I'm going to move that 1 over and move it over here as well. So then it will be at 37.66 divided by divided by 14. Sorry, 14. So that you can set up like this, 37.66 divided by 14. And we got to figure out how many times 14 goes into 37. So let's see, 14 times 3 is 42, so that's too many. So 14 times 2 is 28. So it only fits in there 2 times, 28. Let's subtract that. 37 minus 28 is 9. So we'd have to borrow if we did it by hand. So it would be 17 minus 8, so it's 9. Then bring down a 6. Now how many times does 14 go into 96? Let's see, 14 times 4 is 56, 14 times 5, 70, 14 times 6, 84, 14 times 7, 98. So it's only going to fit in there 6 times. So the 6 goes up here, and then 14 times 6 is 84. So we're going to subtract. 6 minus 4 is 2. 12, bring down the 6. Okay, so how many times is 14 going to 126? So 14 times 8 is 112, 14 times 9 is 126. So it fits in there 9 times, and we subtract 126, and we are at 0. Then we take our decimal and move it straight up. Make sure that when you originally lined this up, since we did 14 fits into 37, we put the 2 right above the 7, the 37. So our answer is 2.69. So in dividing decimals, you do have to make sure that you line up the numbers correctly when you're doing the division as well. Practice a couple by hand down here, and then double check with the calculator and make sure you get the right answer. Then make sure that you send the copy back to me. Send a copy of the page back to me using Send with another app, and send it back to Schoology. And you're going to look for week 4, lesson 1 on dividing decimals.